here are all the hidden details I found while watching Murder Drones Episode 7 Mass Destruction. The new intro was so good and it slapped so hard that I had to replay it over 20 times, and that's not just a theory, that's a fact. Moving on, the episode begins with a flashback sequence of the cabin fever labs. We can see the sign that reads "Lab Space for Rent," with lease being plastered over it as it was bought by J.C. Jensen, but it's unknown who the original landlord was. Next, we get introduced to Dr. Chambers, which we can see his name tag right here, and since the lab is based inside of a church, everyone is wearing outfits that resemble that of a priest, and also they're holding crosses as well. When a human goes to retrieve Nori from her locker and they run back to the lab, the sentinels guarding the labs from earlier are now missing, meaning that they escaped. After the scene, it's revealed to be a flashback sequence being watched by Nori, whose soul now possesses a crab, meaning that drones are still able to live on even if they have to transmit their essence into a new body successfully. As well, we see 3 Duracell batteries on top of a map, and they are likely being used to power the headphones, and they are actually real headphones that exist. They have kitten ears on top, which Cosmos Clouds, another drone theorist on YouTube, owns as seen in this picture of her Uzi plushie wearing them. Also in the scene, there's an action figure to the left of the shot. I have no idea what character this is supposed to be, but let me know down in the comments. Also, we get a look at this device Nori is listening to her music through, which actually resembles the Apple iPod, which are not used as much nowadays as we now have iPhones and smartphones, and even these should be way outdated considering the show takes place in the year 3071. In real life, however, Apple would probably be on the iPhone 3000 by now. We also see a character with cat ears holding a sword, and you can even see the same iPod on the drawing, meaning that this is probably a drawing of Nori and it's clearly anime inspired. And at 4 minutes and 12 seconds, we see a few posters on the wall. The first one says Remnant, and the one directly to the right has XVI spelled out on it, which is actually 16 Roman numerals, and beside that is a poster scene with the 4 symbols found in the deck of cards, showing heart, diamond, club, and spade. And there's a mouse in the center, and in the farthest right, we see a poster that says Bloodlet. When Nori is crawling on the desk, we see her teddy bear in the chair. And at 4 minutes and 26 seconds, we see the cathedral on the map, meaning yes, this is definitely a cathedral, but we may have all knew that at this point. With this, we get the direct continuation of the ending of episode 6 as we see the elevator crash and N goes to try to save V right after. Directly after the scene, we see Thad and Lizzie walking above ground. However, Lizzie and Thad's voices sound a bit off to me, especially Lizzie, and this makes me think that the role was actually recast. I looked at the credits and could not find anything about it, so please let me know down in the comments if there actually was a recast, or if I'm just hearing things. Speaking of Lizzie, her phone is clearly an iPhone 12 since you can see the 3 cameras, but it really could range between the iPhone 11 and the iPhone 15. And after N has a flashback, we see the solver hugs him. And after N has a flashback, when the solver hugs him, we see the facial display that reads access denied, contact admin, Dark X Wolf 17, which if you remember, that's Uzi's username of Crozy in episode 5 home. And when Uzi finds where Nori was staying, we see her iPod and her headphones left there, and you can see the name of the song she was listening to, which is actually called Nightcore. We can hear the music from the blasting headphones. And from the other theorists I spoke with, they really wanted full release of this original song by the Murder Drones team. And from what we can hear, I wouldn't mind an official release myself. I'd give it a listen. Back on the surface, we see Colin rebuilding Uzi's railgun and even has the blueprint for it. And on the blueprint, Uzi wrote Uzi sick AF railgun. That's so cool and doesn't suck. And the pilot, she calls it her sick as heck railgun because Liam does not want the show to feature cussing so it can remain a show for all audiences. But off screen, Uzi refers to it as her sick as blank railgun. And on the right of the blueprint, it shows dead drones and it says mega dead LOL. And on the bottom, we get more Uzi angsty teen energy, as it says other things it can do: not judge me, not force me to go on a prom date, and I can say I had friends but murdered them with sci-fi weaponry. So yeah, this blueprint has a ton of teen angst on it, which is to be expected from Uzi. And right before this, Con takes Lizzie's phone and ever so casually throws it in the snow. But right after this, we see her pull something from her pocket and looks to be yet another cell phone. So does she carry multiple? Pausing at 12 minutes and 50 seconds into the episode, we see more of the lockers beyond just Nori and Eva. We see locker 032 with the name Mika, and to the right we see locker 012 with the name James, who are likely more drones who have been infected with the absolute solver but are now all dead. We see Mika's dead body when Tessa opens it, and once it opens is well written inside of the door. Also, Mika has magnets on her head, which we can see in episode 6 they are used to stun and paralyze drones, so Mika was probably murdered by J.C. Jensen. And next we see James' corpse, and most interesting, Nori's locker is completely empty and her body is missing, since she is alive but her body most likely got destroyed or still may be usable since that she was killed by a nanoacetyl injection. And we can also see Tessa wearing a large bow on her head, and another drone YouTuber pointed out to me that during episode 4 Cabin Fever at 4 minutes and 50 seconds into the episode, we see Tessa without a suit on. Shortly after, it cuts back to Uzi where she is missing and we see her hand towards the left waving, startling Uzi. which I will admit I never noticed until this was actually pointed out to me. So big shout out to Cosmos Clouds for having a good eye. And back to Mass Destruction, when Doll enters the scene, she questions Tessa about the patch, is able to exorcise the Solver's possession, and that means to remove it or expel it. And Tessa seems to know exactly what she's talking about. And when Tessa actually kills Doll in this scene, and I'm freestyling this part, it's actually a reference to Five Nights at Freddy's with a jump scare. It's specifically most likely a reference to FNAF 2 Foxy's jump scare. We see one of the notes she wrote, and it says, "I think the entity of previous pages purged flies from my memories." It sent something to annihilate the other host, which seems to suggest that the Merjones were sent to kill all hosts of the Absolute Solver, and we get to hear Nori say Uzi's catchphrase of "bite me," which means Uzi adopted the "bite me" phrase from her mother, and at 17 minutes and 57 seconds into the episode, we hear N with a much more no-nonsense, serious toned voice, which gave me goosebumps while I was watching the episode during the live reaction. And this was peak Michael Kovac. And during the N vs Uzi fight, we get to see N hold his own fairly well, but unfortunately he never uses lethal force since we still sense Uzi is somewhere in there and could never hurt her. Oh yeah, and back to the Yiva flashback, when she was in rest mode, she was playing Tetris on her facial display and pauses mid-game when she got interrupted by the JC Jensen worker. And right before N kills Tessa, she says to him, "You know why I keep you around, N?" Which is the same thing Sin said to him earlier on in the episode. However, during this fight, the winning strategy was very smart on N's end, and that was the only method that would end this fight quickly while saving Uzi's life in the process and calling for the best optics. And that was getting Nori to use her maternal instincts to bring Uzi back. And that was with N telling Nori how they are friends, but they may date in the future, which Nori stops fighting the Solver and starts to parent Uzi rather than fight her, which causes Uzi's angsty teen side to dominate over the Solver, snapping her out of it. But this caused Uzi to kick the crowd without even realizing she was subconsciously fighting her own mother. To which when N tells her what she has actually done, to which the two start to scream hug, which I found really cute and funny when I first watched it. But at the very end of the episode, they dropped their guard, which allowed the Solver to reform from the quote-unquote dead Tessa, screwing her head back on and taking off the suit and using the parts of Doll's body to make a brand new host, which is the Tessa Sin Doll Monster Hybrid thing, which may be the most powerful version of it since the Solver seems pretty confident in its victory, grabbing both N and Uzi to kill them both in the end of the episode. But in the end, Uzi sacrifices herself to save N, throwing him outside of the cathedral, leaving Uzi to give in to the Solver. And once we think that the episode is finally over, we get another scene of Uzi in space looking at the core of Copper 9 and the destruction that has taken place. Also, when Uzi kicks Nori, there was a basketball sound effect if you listen very closely, but was likely done for comedic effect, and actually did get a laugh out of me, and V's fate is left ambiguous, but she could very well be dead, but there's no telling at this point in time. The other cliffhanger in this episode was the fate of Jay when she is hit by the school bus, but then she asks, "Who are you idiots?" But Lizzie, Khan, and Thad don't reply, rather they charging up their now repaired railgun, showing that Khan now has faith in the railgun and is preparing to kill all the Murdrones. Is now preparing to kill all the Murdrones, using it on Jay first, and she may be the first to die, since Khan and the other two don't have the same relationship with the drones as someone like Uzi does, and he will not hesitate to kill them. But let me know down in the comments if I missed any hidden details of Merjones Episode 7 Mass Destruction. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on the video here.